Please welcome Senior Director Sales Excellence, Shanil Bure.
Hello. Hello and welcome to day 3 of the HCE Sales Kickoff Elevate 2023. Thank you so much for joining. People in the audience here, people connected and watching us live. A few housekeeping notes before we get into our agenda and what we learned yesterday. So, yesterday evening, you may have received an email with a little bit of a recap on what we talked about on day 2. There is a link at the top of it on feedback, and of course, we would love it to get that feedback from you on the different sessions that we had. It's always good to learn about the things that you want to know more about, so we will capture that feedback and try to improve every time. And well, if it was all positive, then that's good encouragement for all of us, isn't it? So thank you so much for that. And besides that, also on day 4, we are doing the Q&A session with the panelists that we have here, the leadership team. They will be Kevin, Ron, David Trice, David Pasternak, and Jason Urso. We are asking you guys to provide your questions, for those people who are in different time zones. We've got a good bunch of questions coming through already. You have till 1 p.m. Eastern time today, that's like 5 hours from now, to get those questions in, and then we'll start compiling them and getting them ready and sorting through those to get the duplicates out. So those two things, housekeeping notes. Let's talk about what we have in store for today. Today is our day 3 SaaS day. We're only going to be focused on, as we move towards a subscription-based pricing, a subscription-based model, we're going to be focused on how this works. We're going to talk about, we're kicking off with a great keynote. We have an external speaker here who's going to show us what SaaS is all about. How does it work? Then we're going to go into how do we drive the value out of SaaS using a panel. We'll have Ron doing the MC for that one. We'll have David Trice in it. We'll have Renee. We'll have Marty from Sparta. All these guys will be explaining to you how we do things today and how we want to do it tomorrow. Once we're done with that, we're going to go into contracting. We've got Ali, who will be explaining us how do you contract in a subscription business in SaaS. And last but not the least, we have this really, really super fun segment called Demoing a SaaS Application. And I encourage all of you to join that one for sure, because it is hilarious. And so you're going to have a lot of fun on that one. Let's take a step back and go through a few things that we've already learned as we transition to the next step. We talked about a few great things yesterday on our customer day and customer and products. We talked about marketing. how outcome-based marketing is helping us as well. What are those new tools and technologies that we're bringing in? We're getting our website improved, and the real value of that is going to come out once we start linking that to leads that will help you as a seller by giving you those leads and giving you those opportunities to sell more. We're going to talk about, we talked yesterday about our R&D and investment plans, our product roadmap. We've done so much great stuff last year, and we want to continue elevating that this year. We mentioned the Forge roadmap, buildings, aerospace, life sciences, industrial software, sustainability, a lot of these awesome tools that have come out, and the evolution of some of them coming out in 2023. And then we talked about how do you utilize our tools for success, where we gave a quick, did you know session of, did you know you could do this in your Salesforce? Did you know you could do a couple of extra things that people haven't really figured out on making your Salesforce look like an Excel? So we talked about that, and then we pivoted into how we bring all these things together and address certain customers. And one of those customer types were your strategic accounts. So Zelda came in and talked about how this year we are looking at strategic accounts a little differently. We have a new list. We have more focus. And so we ended the day with this absolutely amazing keynote on customer centricity, the key to enhance sales and customer experience, where he talked about, or Scott McCain talked about clarity. Why the first thing that you want to address is if your deal and your product, you need to have that level of clarity within you so that you can explain it to the customers. What we really do that makes us distinct. Talked about creativity. How do you make your approach or pitch to a customer more creative, different than all these others? How many of you guys remember the Taxi Terry example? Believe it or not, there are so many people yesterday who told me that they've been Googling Taxi Terry, they've gone to his website, and they've been checking him out. So then we talked about communication. How important is that in creating value to the customer? How do you communicate? And then we wrapped it up with customer experience and because remember, we're not selling products, we're selling outcomes, and we're selling an experience to the customers. So, are you guys ready for the ride of your life? All right. So, without further ado, I would like to now introduce our first keynote speaker. He has written 3 books on subscription, pricing, SaaS. 2 of them are right here. Selling value in a SaaS world, how to win more deals at higher prices, win, keep, grow, how to price and package to accelerate your subscription business. This is actually my book, which I bought almost 9 months ago, and I'm super excited to have him here because I'm going to make him sign it now. But he is a PhD in marketing from UC Berkeley. He has his own company called Impact Pricing. And without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our keynote for the day, Mark Stiving.
In 1991, there was a gentleman named Reed Hastings. He founded Pure Software. Took it public in 95, sold it again in 97, decided it was time to figure out what to do next. So he's pseudo-retired, he's renting movies from Blockbuster, rents Apollo 13 and forgets to return it. 6 weeks late. $40 late fee. And he's afraid to tell his wife. So he goes to the gym, he's working out, and as he's working out at the gym, he's like, well, wait, I pay the gym $30 to $40 a month to be able to work out here. Maybe there's a better way to rent movies. And so he did what all of us would probably do. He decided to start a new company. He called it Netflix. You may have heard of them. right? And so Netflix, if you think about it, they killed Blockbuster. The subscription model absolutely dominated the let's rent a movie at night model. But it doesn't stop there. Think about, oh God, I was a salesperson, not a good one, you'll hear about that later, but I was a salesperson some 35 years ago, and I used ACT as my CRM, ACT. They barely exist today. What happened? Salesforce.com came along. We now subscribe to our CRM. It dominated ACT. Other companies, Microsoft, Adobe, these people have taken their perpetual licenses and essentially obsoleted them and replaced them with subscriptions. Subscriptions are dominating perpetual licenses for the right markets, for the right situations. Okay, we're gonna have to make a quick adjustment. So what is a subscription? It turns out subscriptions have been around for a long time. We think they're brand new. We think that Salesforce came up with the very first subscription, and that's the one that we all follow and say, oh, aren't they great? And they are. We follow them a lot. We mimic a lot of what they do. But it turns out subscriptions were around a long time before Salesforce. So we've had gyms, of course, that's where Reed Hastings got his idea. We've got New York Times newspapers. We've subscribed to newspapers for forever. Even in the B2B world, we would subscribe to Dun & Bradstreet so that we could get information about our potential buyers and potential customers. Subscriptions have existed for a very long time. And now when we think of subscriptions, we typically think about SaaS. We typically think, oh, we could have a software as a subscription. And it fits really well because we can take our perpetual license applications, stick them in the cloud, give people access to that. We've got cloud-based solutions all over. And we can charge by the month, by the year, by the something as we do our SaaS business. And so SaaS is a pretty common way for us to think about subscriptions. Turns out there are many, many things that are going subscriptions. You can subscribe, well, Dollar Shave Club, right? That's a subscription. You can subscribe to your razors. Here in Atlanta, you can subscribe to a Porsche. This is fascinating. And it isn't renting a Porsche, it isn't leasing a Porsche, it's truly subscribing. You pay them your $2,000 or your $3,000 a month, whichever program you're on, and you can drive whatever car you want. They're gonna cover the maintenance, they're gonna cover the insurance. All you have to do is put gas in the car and drive it. This is a subscription. You can subscribe to almost anything. Amazon Prime, of course, most of us are subscribing to free delivery to our house when we buy from Amazon. So if we think about what a subscription really is, it's really a periodic payment for a stream of benefits. If we can get a customer to receive and understand and recognize they're getting benefit day after day or month after month, that's a perfect business for us to think about how do we move that to a subscription? How do we get customers to pay us periodically? And so sellers, and when I say the word sellers, I mean companies that are selling products like Honeywell. Sellers love subscriptions. We should love subscriptions because there's some amazing reasons that subscriptions are so amazing. We get faster growth. One of the best things about subscriptions is if you're selling a perpetual license, on day one of your fiscal year, you now have zero revenue. And we have to go build 100% of last year's revenue and then sell more than that in order to grow the company. If we're running a subscription business, on day one of a fiscal year, we typically have 70% of the year's revenue already booked. So now we only have to fill the 30% bucket before we get to start to grow. This is an incredible experience for us to have faster growth. We end up with higher lifetime value of our customers. A customer pays us a fee in a perpetual license. We get a maintenance fee after that for a period of time, but that maintenance fee starts to dwindle, right? Even though it may go up, it dwindles in comparison to a subscription price. where if we can keep a customer for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, the overall lifetime value of that customer is huge compared to the perpetual license plus the maintenance fees. And our investors reward it. It may or may not be true here at Honeywell because this is a division of a big company, but in the outside world, SaaS-based companies get 4 to 10 times the valuation as non-subscription companies for the same amount of revenue. It is huge. Investors love SaaS businesses, subscription businesses. But this is the part that you guys care about. It's easier to sell. I love subscriptions because they really are easier to sell. When we structure everything properly, we do things correctly. Why? First off, customers are buying the benefit. They're not buying the product. Think about Microsoft Office. When you went and bought Microsoft Office a long time ago, you went to Fry's or Best Buy and you bought a shrink wrap and you bought a thing, right? This is my thing. And you have to say, is this thing going to solve my problems? Is this thing going to do what I want? But now instead we say, hey, I need the ability to do my word processing, to do my spreadsheets. We subscribe because we want to solve the problem and we know that this is delivering to us the benefit. So our customers are thinking in terms of benefits, not in terms of products. And we should be selling in terms of benefits, not in terms of products. It's simple and logical. Typically when we sell SaaS products, we sell them directly towards those benefits our customers are looking for, directly towards the benefit they need. And so it gives us the ability to have logical solutions. It gives our customers the ability to grow. One of my favorite things about SaaS, especially cloud-based SaaS, is a customer can buy one seat, decide they love it, and upgrade to 100 seats or 1,000 seats or 10,000 seats. They can buy our basic package, decide they love it, and decide to upgrade to our better package, our best package. We give customers the ability to grow with us when we sell them SaaS products. And then finally, it's lower risk. Turns out that in a lot of worlds, in a lot of the SaaS world, I can subscribe for a month and know if you're really solving my problem or not. And if you're not, then I don't have to pay you the next month. And if you are, then I pay you month after month after month. So it's much lower risk to our customers if they can essentially try it and say, is it really solving my problem? Can we really use this? Throughout the talk today, we'll do a few impactful insights, and this is just a summary or an observation that I find amazing. And I have to tell you that probably 5 years ago, I decided to start studying subscriptions. I'd always lived in the transaction world just like you guys do. And when I started studying subscriptions, I had aha moment after aha moment. It was just amazing that it truly is a different business model. It's a different way to think. And we're going to share a whole lot of those with you today as we go through. But this one is just a summary of what we just said. Subscription businesses grow faster, have higher customer lifetime value, and higher valuations. And by the way, our customers love them too. Right? And so this is a no-brainer. We should be thinking, how do we get to subscription? How do we get there? Now, this is my favorite observation. Of all the observations that I made in subscriptions, it is this one. Win, keep, grow. We are now managing 3 revenue buckets instead of 1 revenue bucket. Think about your traditional business. Think of this as a transactional business. You could be selling a big piece of hardware. You could sell a perpetual licensed software application. How does this typically work in our world? Well, it turns out that we have a product team that builds products. They do their marketing programs. And we put together 2 departments. One's called sales, one's called marketing. We put a lot of resources into sales and marketing. Marketing's job is to find potential buyers, bring them into the funnel, get them to start circling around the top of the funnel, maybe drop in. Once they get in the funnel, it's sales' job to grab the customer, demonstrate to them the value, figure out that they really want our product, and then they spend $1 million, $10 million, $100 million to buy our product. This is a traditional business. How do we grow that business? Well, it turns out we grow that business by spending more money on sales and marketing. right? We spend more money on marketing, so we get more people in the top. We spend more money on sales, so we get more people through the funnel. And then we can grow our business. Makes all the sense in the world. SaaS is so different. The reason SaaS is different is watch that bottom bubble for a second that says customers. Yeah, we still have to get customers, there's no doubt. But when we win a customer, it tends to be much smaller. Instead of getting the $10 million check because we sold the product, we end up with, for the sake of argument, let me say 1/30th of that, or 1/33rd of that. And so we're in the ballpark of, what did I say, 10 million? So now we're in the ballpark of 300K instead of the $10 million check. So we win a customer in a much smaller deal for the month. So what do we do after we win that customer? We better keep them, because I want that 300K this month, I want it next month, I want it the month after, I want it the month after. The little red ball is churn. Churn is bad. Customers leaving us is bad. They stop paying us money, and we want customers to pay us for a very long period of time. So we have to think about how is it that we're going to keep our customers. And then finally, once we have a customer, how do we get a customer to pay us more money next year than they paid us last year? These are 3 different revenue buckets that we have to manage. Win, keep, and grow. We put resources into winning customers. We put our marketing on our sales team, just like we would in a traditional business. We put our marketing on our sales team into how do we go win a new customer. Then typically companies have created a customer success department so that we get good onboarding, faster time to market. Now we can keep our customers. Then how do we grow our customers? And it turns out this is the most ignored revenue bucket of all of our revenue buckets. And we'll spend a bunch of time today as we talk about that. How do we grow customers? Because it's a huge opportunity in the SaaS world. So what are some early insights when we think about switching to SaaS? First one, the executives in the room can probably vouch for this. Cash flow is painful. Right? I used to get that $10 million check, and now I'm getting a $300,000 check. That doesn't feel very good to me. It takes 3 years before I get the same amount of cash in my pocket if I'm doing a subscription versus a perpetual license. Cash flow hurts. And so we have to make sure that we're aware of that and ready for it when we do this. Retention is crucial. If we're not keeping our customers happy, they're going to leave us. And that's a bad thing, because this is our lifetime value of a customer. This is our stream of future revenue. Another one of my favorite ahas of subscriptions is we have to care if our customers like our product. Think about this for a second. If you went and bought a new car, you're going to go buy a new Ford, and you go to the dealer, you give them the money, you drive off with your $50,000 Ford vehicle, whatever it happens to be. You take it home, you park it in the garage, and you never, ever drive it again. Does Ford care? Heck no. I got my $50,000. Why do I care if you drive my car or not? If Ford's selling a subscription, do they care if you're driving that car? Heck yes. And this is true with all of our SaaS businesses. Right? When you get a new customer, you actually care if they like and use your product. Where before, we never really did. Right? Did Microsoft really care when you bought that box of Word and took it home? Did they really care if you ever even installed it? In fact, how many of us have shrink-wrapped software on our shelf somewhere that we've never even opened? Right? And they didn't care because they got our money. In SaaS, we care. We care a lot. And what that does, not only for us, is it helps us build better products, but it helps our customers like us even more. And then the last one is usage matters. Usage is one of those metrics. I don't know if you guys are measuring this today on your SaaS-based products. As you develop products, I strongly recommend you monitor usage on as many things as you possibly can. And the reason is we care about what our customers are using, how much they use it, And we care about that because it helps us define what's the next version of the product that we should build. If we were going to change our features and create different packages, which customers use which features so that they get more value. And so monitoring usage, it gives us an insight into how our customers value our products. Because how they use it is how they value it. So I highly recommend we think about usage, and we're monitoring usage and watching it. But a great impactful insight here, managing a subscription is more complex than a traditional business. Right? We used to have to worry about marketing and sales, and that's it. But now we have to focus on winning, keeping, and growing customers. So it's more complex for us inside, but it's way more valuable for us, and it's a much better product for our customers. Just as a quick aside, so you can see this is a Zoom screenshot. And just so you can see, they're running Win, Keep, and Grow. How do they do Win, Keep, and Grow? Well, first off, if they want to win me as a customer, they've got a free version of the product. So I could sign up and okay, did they really win me? Well, at least I could try it and see if I like it and then maybe upgrade to a paid version. So they've got a strategy to say, how are we going to go win new customers? How do they keep customers? Well, it turns out that little box in the lower right, they give me the ability to type in whatever question I want. They're going to help me get the most value out of my product. They also send you, when you first sign up, they send you onboarding emails. Have you tried this function? Are you using this capability? So they're worried about my time to value. They're worried about, am I getting value out of that product? Because they don't want me to churn. How do they grow customers? We'll take a look at the product portfolio. Let's say I signed up for $14.99. I might grow into the $19.99 version. I might grow into the enterprise version. I might decide I want more hosts. There are ways for us to grow our customers. And it has to be planned. It doesn't happen by accident. For 30 years, I've been a pricing expert. And in the world of pricing, I think about value. It is the single most important concept anytime we do pricing. And if I could say every consultation I do, every time I help a company, probably the single biggest problem they deal with is they don't understand how their customers value their products. And so before I can help us understand how our subscription customers are going to value our products, let's first take a dive into how do our normal customers value our products. How would any customer value our products? This is the fundamental concept behind pricing, and it should be the fundamental concept behind almost every business decision we make. So let's take a look at what this is. In the world of pricing, there's a single most important pricing rule, and that is to adopt value-based pricing. What value-based pricing means is really simple. Charge what a customer is willing to pay. Turns out it's simple to say those words. It is really hard to figure out how much is a customer willing to pay. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about how does a customer value our product? How does a customer decide how much they're willing to pay? Or how can we figure out how much a customer is willing to pay? Because customers only ever trade money for value. Think about the last thing you bought, the last time you purchased something. The reason you bought it is because you thought you were going to get more value from it than it cost you in money. Never, ever do we pay more money than we think we're going to get in value. The question then becomes, how is it that our buyers value our products? How much does a buyer value our products? So let's go into what is value. Value is, there's two basic types of value that are really important to this conversation. One type of value is called inherent value. Inherent value is what's the value of solving the problem? Quick question for you. How much do you value having air to breathe? A lot? Would we say that? Like everything I got, you can have it, right? I want to breathe, thank you. Okay, so the value of air is like everything I own. This is called inherent value. What's the value of solving the problem? Now, I just captured some, where the heck, I just captured some fresh Atlanta air. Anybody want to buy it? I don't have any takers. Wait, you just told me air was worth everything you own, and yet you won't buy my air. And that's because you have all the free air around you that you want. Right? This is called relative value. What's the value of this air relative to the alternatives? Absolutely nothing. So air is either worth everything you own or absolutely nothing, depending on if we're talking about inherent value or relative value. This is one of the most important concepts, and I'm going to rephrase it into this thing called will I and which one. Our customers, most of the time when someone buys something, they make both of these decisions. First decision is, will I buy something in this product category? After they've said yes, they then say, okay, which one am I going to go buy? Let's assume for a moment that you don't play the guitar and that you're not in the market to buy a guitar. And tomorrow morning, you wake up, your significant other nudges you and says, hey, honey, I would really like it if you would learn to play the guitar and sing me a love song. I mean, doesn't that just pull at your heartstrings? You're like, oh man, I got to go do that. Right, so what's the next thing you do? You go to the store. You got to go to the guitar store. We just said yes to the will I decision, by the way. Now we have to go to the guitar store. We go shopping around. We're trying to figure out which one fits me, which one sounds the best, which one is most expensive or least expensive. Price is a really important part of that which one decision, but we never even thought about it when we made the will I decision. So after we've made the which one decision, we bought something. Most of the time when we buy something, we make both of these decisions. The first decision, will I buy something in the category? People tend not to be price sensitive. Then they go on to say, okay, which one am I going to go buy? Price becomes a really important part of that decision. What we always do in the world of pricing, and I hope you always do this in the world of sales, is try to put yourself in the shoes of your buyer and understand how your buyer is thinking. Each buyer is different. Each buyer perceives value differently. We want to understand, how is it that this buyer is perceiving value? Or how does an average buyer perceive value? And so a typical buyer's journey, we talked about this, people are going to make the will I decision first, then they go on to make a which one decision, then they buy something. When they're making the will I decision, what they care about is the value of solving the problem. So this is the value of having air to breathe. This is the value of making your spouse happy. If you go crash your car, you're not in the market for a new car today, you go and crash your car, guess what? You're in the market for a new car. You say, will I buy a new car? Yes, I think so. I need a car so I can go drive. So the value of solving the problem is the will I decision. The moment you said yes to will I, then you go on to start doing which one, most of the time. And this is where relative value comes into play. What's the value of your product relative to the competitive alternatives? And typically buyers make both decisions. Typically buyers don't just make one, although sometimes they do, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute, and why that's so important to us. So you go to the store. This is a question for the audience. I need to have your answers, okay? You're going to go to the store. Your spouse said to you, please go to the store, buy me a can of green beans. You have two choices. You can buy Del Monte for $1.69. You can buy Safeway Kitchens for $1.49. For those of you who are not in the US, Del Monte is a national brand. Safeway is a store brand, okay? And so you got to choose. Go ahead. Who's in the room? Who's going to buy Del Monte? Go ahead, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Not very many. Wow. Who's going to buy Safeway Kitchens? Okay, who's not playing along? Yeah.
Buy fresh out of the fresh vegetable section.
Yeah. So even though she said she wanted a can of green beans, you're going to ignore her? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not a good listener.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to repeat the answers because I'll summarize it and repeat the answers. But tell me, why are you going to buy Del Monte and not you, Ron?
Yeah.
Somebody else. Who's going to buy Del Monte and tell me why?
I'm not taking the risk of buying the cheap alternative.
So it's a higher probability that it's good quality.
No salt added made me make that decision.
Okay, maybe no salt added. Maybe it's a difference. We're going to read the label and try to make a logical decision. Okay? Anybody else?
The 20 cents difference isn't worth the risk.
20 cents isn't worth the risk, so you're there. Got it. Got it.
Brand you trust.
It's a trust brand, right? My grandmother used it. Come on, right? How could I not trust that? Okay, what about Safeway? Who chose Safeway? Tell me why. It's the same. It's not. I can see it's different.
Made in the same factory, 2 different labels.
Oh, it's made in the same factory with 2 different labels. Okay, is that what you were going to say?
It's the same. It's green cut, no salt added, everything, and it's cheaper.
And it's cheaper. Okay. Anybody else have a different answer for that?
How could you get wrong in green beans? It's just green beans.
It's just green beans. How could you go wrong with green beans? Okay, got it. So, so what I love about this example is I never care what you choose, right? This isn't a right or wrong. What matters is how you made the decision. And every one of you made the decision the exact same way. You said Del Monte is 20 cents more. Is it worth it? And some of you said yes, and some of you said no. There isn't a right or wrong answer. But here is the right answer, and that is it doesn't matter what's true. It only matters what you believe is true. So some of you said, hey, I don't want to take the risk, it's a better quality. Some of you said it's the exact same green bean in cans with 2 different labels. I don't know what's true, right? That may be true, I don't know. But your belief is what drives your decisions. And what that says to us is when our customers are deciding between our products and our competitors' products, we should be building products that are better than our competitors' products. We should be building products that have more capabilities, produce more value. But if we can't communicate that to our customers, we don't get paid for it. If our customers don't understand the value of our products relative to the competitive alternatives, then the best we can do is charge the same that our competitors do. So this is how buyers make decisions between your product and a competitor's product. But what about will I? Sometimes buyers don't compare you to a competitive alternative. Sometimes buyers only say, am I going to buy one of these? Yes, here's my money. And that's it. Who's been bungee jumping? Go ahead, raise your hand for me. Okay, I'm not going to pick on Ron because I already know the answer. I want, your name?
Jeff.
Jeff, thank you, Jeff. Jeff, where'd you go?
I jumped off the bridge in Zambia.
Beautiful, nice. So Jeff jumped off a bridge in Zambia. Jeff, do you remember how much you paid?
No idea.
No idea, okay. I'm going to pretend that I know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
It was $100.
Okay.
Okay, you paid $100 to go do that.
A while ago.
Yeah, by the way, Jeff, out of curiosity, when you jumped off the bridge in Zambia, did you say to yourself, I could jump off the bridge here in Zambia, or I could go somewhere else and go bungee jumping? Or did you just say, am I going to do this or not?
The highest commercial jump in the world. I was definitely just doing that.
Okay, it was just a, am I going to do this or not, right? And so let's say you paid $100, right? But first of all, I want to point out, this was a will I decision. He didn't say, what's the competitive alternative? You know, where am I going to get the best deal? He just said, am I going to do this or not? So you paid $100, we'll say, right? Do you think you would have gone for 125?
Yes.
150?
At that moment, yes.
200?
I don't know.
Okay, so there's a really important point. Price didn't drive his decision. We can get the price to a high enough point where he says, no, I'm not going to go do that. But he is not that price sensitive in this area when he's making the will I decision. Now, all of the rest of you, you happen to be Jeff's best friends. You happen to be in Zambia right next to him when it's time to do this. It is only $100 to go bungee jumping with Jeff. Who's going? Raise your hand.
Come on. Zambezi River.
I'm surprised. There's an awful lot of people who raise their hand. Usually we don't get that many. That's nice. You guys are risk takers. Okay, for those of you who didn't raise your hand, I'm just really curious. $75. Raise your hand if you're going to go for 75 instead. Nobody. 50. Come on, 50. Okay, nobody. So the point is that price isn't driving your decision. Something else is driving your decision. When people are only making a will I decision, something else drives that decision. What we need to be able to do as business people, as salespeople, is recognize when is it that people are only making a will I decision and not making a which one decision, and maybe create opportunities or products or situations where people only make that will I decision. So when buyers are only making a will I decision, they didn't consider a competitive alternative. They're not that price sensitive. You go to the movie theater, how do you choose what movie theater you want to go to? Well, what movie's showing? How close is the theater? Maybe the price of the ticket at the movie theater. You know what you're not thinking about? The price of popcorn. After you walk in, you ask yourself, am I going to take out a mortgage today or not? Right? And that's because there's no competitive alternative. You're driving down the freeway, you're in the middle of nowhere. I live in Reno, Nevada, by the way. It's easy to get to the middle of nowhere. And you see the sign that says last gas for 75 miles. You glance down at your gas gauge. It says 1/8 of a tank. You pull off. The price of gas is 4 times the price that it is in the city. Are you buying gas? Yeah. Price isn't driving that decision. Something else is driving that decision. One of my favorite examples is the iPhone. Let's think about the iPhone for just a second. If you have an iPhone today, I will bet you that you are currently thinking the following. Should I upgrade to the new 14 or not? And here's what you're not thinking. Should I upgrade to the new 14 or switch to Android? Right? Because you're addicted, you're stuck. Right? You're in this iPhone world, and this is why Apple charges way higher prices than than Android phones do. Because we're making will I decisions, and Android buyers are making which one decisions between all the different manufacturers of phones. Okay, let's play this out in the world of subscriptions, make it perfectly relative. And here we've got a chart that has customer value on our y-axis. And when we've got potential customers, people who haven't bought from us yet, they actually don't know how much value they're going to get from our product. They can only use perceived value. How well do our salespeople, our marketing people explain the value of our product to our customers, work with our customers so they can realize their own value? And this is where we have to win new customers. Once we've won a customer, now they're using our product. Now they actually know the value of our product. And you'll notice that some people are negative. They don't really like our product. They're not getting the value out of it they thought they would. Some people are really highly positive. They love us. They're getting way more value than they ever expected, making tons of money. So we've got this spectrum of customers. Remember, win, keep, grow. If we want to win customers, these are those potential customers on the left. We need to understand how to explain perceived value to those customers. The customers at the bottom, those are the ones we're trying to keep. How do we put together retention plans, get our customer success department working on them? The ones at the top, these are the ones we want to grow. How do we get them to pay us more money next year than they paid us last year? But one of my favorite observations about this is that once you've won a customer and you want to sell them the next upgrade, you want to sell them the next option, are they making a will I decision or a which one decision? They're probably making a will I decision. Because they've already got your base product. They want the next option. And so when they're buying the next option, they're making the will I decision, price isn't driving that decision. It isn't about what's your price, what's the competitor's price. It's really about what's the value of solving the problem that you solve. What's the value of having air to breathe? A lot. I mentioned earlier that my biggest issue with companies when I go work with them is that they don't truly understand what value means to their customers. And I had the privilege of working with a company called Pragmatic Marketing. Some of you may have taken classes from them. And Pragmatic focuses on the problem, right? Their constant phrase is, what's the problem? What's the problem? What's the problem? And I was able to integrate what they do in with the way I think about pricing, and it created this thing we call a value table, which is so insightful when we start thinking about how do customers value our products. If you were to go to your webpage right now, I will bet you that you've got, in fact, I happen to know this is true, you have a list of features. Let me tell you what we do, right? We do this, we do this, we do this. We're great. We do all these things. Let me tell you what your customers don't care about. Your features, right? And so what is it that our customers do care about? Our customers have problems. They care about solving their problems. So if we have a customer who has a problem, by the way, why'd you build a feature? Why did you build a solution? Why'd you build a product? The reason you built a product is because it solved a customer's problem. The reason you added this next feature to your product is because it solved a customer's problem. If a customer has a problem and they buy your feature, what happens? Some result happens. They get something good, hopefully. Right? And so our customers are thinking in terms of what's the problem I need solved, what's the result I want to achieve. We all sell in the B2B world, and as long as we're in the B2B world, the last column is awesome. Because in B2B, we can take almost any result, use our business acumen, and help our customer understand how much more profit are you going to make because you buy our product and get this result. This is not easy. I get it. It's not easy. But let me give you a couple examples just so that you can think through it with me. You can see this go through. So one of my, I had the opportunity to work with a really, really large consultant. And so this was one of the examples that they used. We're going to use, I asked them, so what's your product? And they said, well, we've got this one product that's called the Enterprise Cost Reductions. Excellent. And so someone who buys this, what's the problem that they're trying to solve? I coach companies to try to put this in first-person format. I want you to speak as though you are your customer. And so when we put this in first-person format, they say, what's the problem? My customer would say something like, we don't do a good job of managing our overall costs, we don't know how to optimize our processes, and we're uncomfortable letting go of people. Does that feel like a problem? This is often the hardest of the 4 steps, is getting the problem right. What's the level? Where's the pain? Can I make it so that the buyer really would say this and really would say, hey, this is a problem I'd like to solve? You've probably heard Ted Levitt's phrase, nobody wants to buy a drill, a 1/4-inch drill. They want to buy a 1/4-inch hole, right? But let me tell you, actually nobody wants to buy a 1/4-inch hole. What they really want is to be able to hang the picture over the fireplace. But nobody really wants to hang a picture over the fireplace. What they really want is to have a beautiful living room. But nobody really wants a beautiful living room. What they really want is to make their spouse happy so they can go golfing on Saturday. Right? So someplace in there is the real problem. I don't know where it is, right? But our job is to try to figure out what's the problem that resonates with our buyer. Once we have that problem, then we can say, well, let's assume our customer has this problem. They buy our product. They buy this feature. They implement it. What's the result they might expect to get? When I think of results, I like to make these quantitative in some way. And so this client said, we think we can get a 5% cost reduction in an identified division. So that's quantitative. 5% cost reduction is pretty straightforward. It's a little generic and bland, but it's pretty straightforward, and we get it. And so what's the value of a 5% cost reduction? This is probably the easiest value calculation anybody could ever make. So if we've got a $2 billion cost structure, a 5% reduction gives us $100 million in savings per year. Right. Now, I emphasize the words per year because notice we're delivering a periodic stream of benefits. Every year they get this. The best bet is, could we find a way to get them to subscribe to these cost reductions as opposed to paying me one time up front? Because it could act as a subscription. Okay, so this example was from a huge company because I thought you wanted to see one. I want to give you an example from a smaller company, but it's way more fun and interesting. So this company, they make, I think they have 80% market share of the technology that fast food restaurants use to manage drive-through lanes. Okay? It's fascinating business, especially if you eat fast food or at least used to eat fast food and try to pay attention to this. And so I just enjoy working with them. They have this product that has a long-range communication radio. And it's like, well, why? Who cares about a long-range communication radio? You know, they've got it on their website. We've got a long-range communication radio. And who cares? Nobody cares. We got to figure out why this matters to someone. So what I would ask him, and it took a while to get this out of him, but what's the problem that we're really solving? And it turns out the problem we're really solving, again, we're putting this in McDonald's language, right? Our drive-through lane slows down when the customer has to wait for us to prepare the food. Okay, so that's a problem, I get it. What's the solution to the problem, or what's the result? The result is by taking orders at the edge of the parking lot, we have more time to prepare the food, resulting in 2 more cars per hour during peak times. That's pretty cool, right? Think about it. Why do we need long-range communications? Well, we can get more cars through the drive-through. We get more cars through the drive-through. What's that worth to you? Well, now we can work with the customer, figure out what's the true value calculation for them. If we have 2 more cars through the drive-through, there's 3 peak hours in a day, call it 360 days in a year, $10 average order per car, 60% margin per product. That's $12,960 a year for having long-range communication so we can take orders at the side, at the edge of the parking lot. That's what value means. It doesn't stop there, by the way. It turns out when customers wait in a long line, they sometimes drive off, meaning we lose business. They call these drive-aways. Right? The drive-aways, by taking orders at the edge of the parking lot, customers are less likely to drive off, resulting in 1 more car per hour during peak times. You can do the math, it's exactly the same at half the value. Could we do this for your products? Could we truly understand what are the problems we're solving for customers? What's the result they would expect to get? And then how much does a customer value that? My insight for you here, only experts care about your product. Everybody else cares about their problems and their results. Very few people are experts. Experts know what your features are, they buy your features, they can translate your features into results. But if we're not selling to an expert, we have to do that. We have to be able to communicate that. So it turns out we have these 3 value levers, and I'm not going to dive deep into the 3 value levers for you, but one of the things I found totally fascinating about subscription businesses, especially SaaS businesses, are these 3 value levers. The way companies manage them and tweak them. It turns out that every company makes these decisions. But until you start studying SaaS, you don't realize how important these decisions really become and how much we can tweak them. So these 3 decisions are, first off, the market segment. Have we clearly defined our market segments? And you could take a market segment. I like to think of a market segment as companies or individuals with a common set of problems. You could take the exact same product, tweak it for different market segments that have very different willingnesses to pay, and get these different market segments to pay us very different amounts of money. One of my favorite examples of this is LinkedIn. You guys may all be familiar with LinkedIn, but it turns out they've defined 4 different market segments. Their 4 market segments are salespeople, job seekers, recruiters, and then professionals, which is all of us, right? Everybody else that doesn't fit into one of those 3 categories. If you were to look, by the way, what is LinkedIn? It's resume storage and search, right? All of these groups want resume storage and search. Got it. But it turns out recruiters by far get the most value out of having LinkedIn to use. And they have packages for recruiters that are 10 times higher in price than packages for any of the other market segments. All they do is tweak the features around resume storage and search to make it easier for recruiters to do their job. And they can charge a really high price. Can we find market segments in our world where we can potentially tweak our product and give it a different part number, give it a different name, sell it to different market segments at very different prices? The second one up here is packaging. In the world of packaging, I often think of good, better, best packages. You have a whole bunch of different features. How do you put those into packages that make sense to your marketplace, that make sense to your market segments? And this is a really hard decision. The nice thing about SaaS is we can often tweak it. We can change it, we can test it, we can see what happens. You may recall earlier today I said we want to monitor usage. Watching people's usage is huge for us to understand which products or which features should go into which packages, because it lets us know which features different buyers truly value. The last one is my favorite by far, and it's the most interesting, and that's called a pricing metric. A pricing metric is what do you charge for? Before SaaS, we never even realized this was a thing. So before SaaS, if you wanted to buy a hamburger, you bought a hamburger. If you want to buy a bicycle, you buy a bicycle. Right? If you want to buy Microsoft Office, you buy a shrink-wrap box of Microsoft Office. Right? We never thought about it. But then we go SaaS, and Salesforce comes up with the first one. They say we're going to charge by the user. And most companies, when they first start out, think I'm going to charge by the user. But it turns out that's just a decision. We can charge for lots of different things. Here's a list, and it's by far this is not exhaustive, but here's a list of different things that we could be charging for. Certainly we could charge per user. We could charge per interaction. We could charge based on how many messages we sent, how much data someone uses, how many downloads they've done, how many page views, video views, web sessions. API calls is a pretty common one for platform type products. What we want to think about when we make these decisions on what are we going to charge for is how do our customers get value from our products? And when we understand how our customers get value, we can choose the right pricing metrics that are highly correlated. And that way, as customers use more of our product, they pay us more money, and we make more money next year than we made this year. Pricing metrics are a key component to that decision. And if we think about selling then, what do we want to do in sales? We want to understand what is our pricing metric, and can we articulate value to the customer in terms of how much value they're receiving per pricing metric, right? If we're charging per user, can we articulate value per user? Then we're demonstrating, hey, it makes sense to have everybody in your company use this product, because when everybody uses it, you're making way more money than if everybody doesn't use it. This is one of my favorite topics in terms of subscriptions. We talked a little bit about this already, subscription growth. How do we grow our company? How do we grow our subscription? And it turns out there's only 2 ways that you can increase revenue. We're going to increase revenue by either winning new customers or getting our current customers to pay us more money. That's the only 2 ways we can make more money. It's much easier to do if we keep our current customers, right? So we think about win, keep, and grow. What we really have is win and grow, but if we mess up on the keep part, then we have to work much, much harder on win and grow in order to grow the revenue of our company. So all three of those are important, but we want to talk about growing. How do we grow a company? You guys know how to win new customers. We've been doing this forever, right? We send marketing, we send sales, we find new clients, right? We know how to win new customers. How do you grow customers? That's the hard one. And what's really interesting, many companies use the words land and expand. I don't know if you guys use these words or not. Many companies do this. And here's what's fascinating. Look at how many resources they put into land. Look at how many resources they put into expand. And there's a very big difference between the two, right? And yet the big win in subscription is the expand side. That's where we truly make huge revenue growth. And so we want to focus harder on the expand piece, but it turns out that we don't. And why don't companies do this? Imagine you're launching a brand new product. And so we've got win, keep, and grow. We've got to focus on win, keep, and grow. And here on the left axis or on the y-axis, we've got urgency. How urgent is this problem? On the bottom axis, we've got important. And winning customers when you have a new product is very important. And it's very urgent. Think of urgency. One way to think about urgency is somebody going to yell at you if this doesn't happen? Right? So if we're not winning customers, someone's yelling. There's no doubt. And if we win customers and they churn out quickly, someone's yelling. Right? And so both winning and keeping customers are really important and really urgent. Growing customers is irrelevant. Right? We don't have any customers. Why would we bother growing a customer? What happens over time? Over time, it turns out winning customers becomes less urgent and important because we have this huge backlog, or we have this huge customer base that we make money from, we're really happy. Keeping customers is always urgent and important, right? As soon as we start losing customers, someone's yelling. But what about the grow part? There's nobody yelling at you because we didn't get more money next year than we got this year from a customer. It never becomes urgent. Turns out it's really important because a lot of our revenue growth should be coming from grow. It's like low-hanging fruit that we can go pick up. How do we pick up that low-hanging fruit? Turns out there's only 4 ways to grow a customer. We can raise their prices. Right now, we should be thinking about raising prices. In fact, I heard that we are thinking about or have done raise price increases. And the reason is inflation is driving up costs everywhere. Customers expect to pay more, so we should be meeting that expectation for them. Right? There are ways for us to be increasing prices today, but we can be raising prices. We could do upsells. If we've created a good, better, best package, we can get them to go from good to better to best. We could be using cross-sells. We've got new products that match this same market segment. Or usage. If we've chosen a really good pricing metric, then as they use more of our product, they get more value from our product, they pay us more money. So imagine that we've got usage as, well, today we're probably using users. So as a company grows, they hire more people in the company. They're getting more value from our product. They're paying us more money because they're paying us by the user. Right? And so we want to think about usage. And it turns out that these 4 ways to grow a customer are directly related to the 3 value levers we talked about before. When we clearly define our market segments, it makes raising prices much easier because we understand who our customers are, what they value, what's really key to them. Packaging, if we package our products correctly, that's going to help us with both upsell. So if we create good, better, best, plus a set of options, it gives us the ability to upsell our customers. It gives us other products that we can cross-sell to our customers. And then the pricing metric. If we choose a good pricing metric, as our customers get more value, they use more of our product, they pay us more money. These are the 4 ways to grow a customer. I can't think of any other ones. So I told you I was a salesperson, and I really was. Right? I was a horrible salesperson 35 years ago, which is why I'm not doing it today. But I remember my sales pitch I mean, I knew the product, I knew the features, I could spew features, and I could look you in the eye and watch for a glint of interest or excitement or something. And if I never saw it, it's like, oh, I'm not going to get that sale. I was horrible, right? But what if I knew then what I know now, right? It isn't about me spewing features. It's really about me understanding what are your business problems? What's the result that you're trying to achieve? And how can I help you understand the value of the products and what that value is going to be to you as a company?
Your mic's clipping on it.
Oh, my mic's slipping. Thank you. So what's the value to my customers? That would have made all the difference in the world, in my world as a salesperson. So my hope for you, and I'm hoping what you do, is take this information, decide that you are going to sell value, discover what value truly means to your customers, learn to communicate that value to your customers in the way that they think about value. And if you do this, I can almost guarantee you, you will win more deals at higher prices. Now, go make an impact. So we have 30 minutes, 33 minutes, and I was going to open this up for questions and answers. Anybody have any really hard questions for me? Yes, please.
First of all, excellent presentation.
Thank you.
You summarized 10 years of my hard-earned in 1 hour. Thank you. So my question is, how prevalent is this good, better, best packaging? How prevalent is this packaging good, better, best in the software industry today?
So good, better, best is extremely prevalent in software, especially when you go below the enterprise level. You guys are in the enterprise level, and so it may be a little bit less prevalent, but here's what I'll say about good, better, best. It has two things that are key for us. First off, I mentioned that buyers don't really know the value of our products, and so they're not experts. Buyers want to make an easy decision, and they're afraid to make a mistake. When we give them a good, better, best choice, and they don't know what to choose, they choose the one in the middle. And why do they do that? Because if they buy the low-priced one, they think it won't be good enough. You know, they might have made a mistake. If they buy the high-priced one, they think they might have wasted money. And so they tend to buy the one in the middle. Now, SaaS is actually slightly different than that in the sense that if we can get our customers into our platform at the good level, then we have the ability to upsell them, get them to buy more from us, get more usage. And so even in SaaS, we see a lot of good, better, best. And the goal is to get people into the platform. My recommendation to you, even in the enterprise level, is even if you don't go with good, better, best per se, what you do need to do is figure out how to simplify your price list. Because if you've got hundreds of options and buyers can't make a decision, they won't make a decision because they don't want to make a mistake. Good, better, best is the easiest way I've ever found of creating products that say to our customers, we understand you. Let me go back to the LinkedIn example that we used earlier too. It turns out that LinkedIn has these 4 market segments we talked about. If you were to do a deep dive into any one of those market segments, they have good, better, best inside the market segment. And we could do the exact same thing where instead of saying, I want to try to create good, better, best for every customer, I could say, hey, here's a market segment. I understand what their problems really are. I could create good, better, best offerings for the people based on their willingness to pay and how much value they really are going to get from our product and sell it that way. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Thanks. I came in a little bit late, but a lot of what you said really resonated for me. So, Honeywell's over 100 years old, have a incredible legacy of being basically a product company. And, within our business, we're kind of leading a bit of a transformation in terms of the type of company that Honeywell wants to become. And software, and SaaS is a big part of that. How do we change? So the theory is clear. How do we change the mindsets and behaviors of several hundred, if not several thousand sellers?
I don't want to give you the answer that I really want to give you. So as a general rule, as a general rule, the more we ask our salespeople to change what they do, the harder it is for them to do that. And so if we're going to ask them to change 5 different things, we're going to change our product, we're going to change our price, we're going to change our market strategy, we're going to change our customer, right? If we're going to change all that, it is really, really hard for a salesperson to be successful. If we can find a way to change one thing at a time and get them to do that piece, then it's much easier for them to be successful. And this is true with all of us, right? We all hate change. So why would salespeople be any different? We just want them to be, overnight, it's like, oh, go be a SaaS salesperson. And it isn't that trivial. Right? And I hope that was an okay answer.
Yeah, thanks. And you pointed out, I guess, the difficulty organizations have on the grow segment. So I guess I'd be curious, what either organizational constructs, incentive schemes, like from businesses that have been successful in the grow side? Because I think, yes, we have a lot that go after the win. We have renewal teams or anything that goes after the keep. And we probably struggle there as well. So I'm curious any advice that you have on the grow.
Yeah, so I'm going to intentionally stay away from any question of compensation, okay? But besides that, let me talk about the grow piece. And in the world of grow, put together a set of KPIs that you're monitoring and grading people on, right? Whether you compensate them on it or not doesn't matter. But there are, if you think about the 4 different ways you can grow a customer today, your finance team can actually sit back and say, well, where did this one come from, right? This customer paid me another $1 this year. Where did that $1 come from? Did it come because we raised prices? Did it come because we had an upsell, a cross-sell, or usage? And if we put together KPIs and we're actually tracking this, then people do what they're managed to do. And if we give our product team, our marketing team, our customer success team, the KPIs to say, look, I need you to go move this number, people will start to move the number. But the fact that we're not measuring it today, we're not monitoring it today, says that nobody cares, right? And they're not focused on it as much as you think they should or I think they should. There's also one more metric that I live by, and most SaaS companies should live by this, and that's called net dollar retention. Net dollar retention, take away winning customers. So this has nothing to do with winning customers. It has everything to do with the customers we had last year. And if we took the entire bucket of customers we had last year and said, how much money did they pay us? Oh, they paid us $100 million. How much money will they pay us this upcoming year, or did they pay us the year after? And it's that exact same set of customers. Is it 105 million? Is it 95 million? So net dollar retention is the second year's revenue divided by the first year's revenue. And so if you can get to 105%, I mean, if you're not doing 105%, I would be embarrassed, right? But the best practices, the companies that are growing like gangbusters are doing up to 150% net dollar retention. Now, it may be harder for a really large organization to get that high, but it is not hard to get to 105, right? You just have to focus on it and say, let's go do that. Yeah.
In the same vein.
Shanil's going to run. Oh, we got a mic back here. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, since you were talking about, how hard is the changes for our sellers, I was thinking the same for our customers, especially our current customer, our many-year customers, in terms of changing the different way that we sell. So if we change from subscriptions to users, how is their perspective or how they take that from us? How is that changed?
Yeah, it is really interesting and challenging to say, look, I have a customer that bought a perpetual license from me, and they're now paying me 20% of that original fee as a maintenance fee year on year, and I want to switch them to a subscription instead of having them pay the maintenance fee. And you know what you're tempted to do? you're tempted to say, oh, we'll just use your maintenance fee and call that a subscription. Please don't do that, right? Because they're willing to pay you a lot more. You're providing the infrastructure, the internet, or I'm sorry, let's just call it the infrastructure. So you should be paid for all that. Plus, the trick that I always recommend is that we take all new capability and put it in the subscription product. And no new capability goes in the perpetual license product. And over time, it becomes really clear to people they need to switch from that perpetual license to the subscription. There comes a day when you want to kill the perpetual license product. My advice for you when that day comes, or when we're getting close to that day, or as you know you want to move that direction, when a customer's contract comes up, raise their prices pretty dramatically. Right? Let them pay more for the maintenance on your perpetual license products, and you're motivating them to shift. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So in your experience, some of the most successful companies in the grow aspect, is that the same sales org that's doing the land, getting new customers that's also responsible for grow? Is that usually a separate customer success organization that's responsible, or is it a mix? Or is it some sort of automated mechanism that's doing that?
The answer is yes. So it turns out that there's different structures that matter for different businesses. It depends on what type of product that you have, what your market would expect. If you think your customer success department can do a good job at getting people to use more of our product, then we don't need sales to go in and get people to use more of our product. However, it's pretty common for the customer success department to be watching usage, saying this customer is ripe for an upgrade, and then send the salesperson in to go get the upgrade to happen, right? Because we've got this fantastic information about what our customers are doing with our products. And so there isn't one single answer to that. There's also a field, it's a new, what do I want to call it? It's a new way of thinking about business that we see a lot, especially in the entrepreneur startup world today, and that's called product-led growth. And product-led growth is, how do we build more of our capabilities of selling into our product? So is there a way that I could get people to have access to a portion of an upgrade so that they can see the value of that upgrade and maybe upgrade without calling a salesperson? Or do they just need, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Oh, go ahead in the back.
So you talked about like good, better, best, like product tiers, which we do, and then we feature get it between like users. But so in the same vein as product-led growth, let's say that we come out with new features. How do we decide which features to put in each product tiers? And then also, if our customers aren't increasing their users, how else then do we decide to add value to a customer who doesn't add a user? Should we change the good, better, best to be less about users and more about features? And if you do that, how do you decide which features to lock behind which tiers?
Okay, you just asked the hardest question possible. Deciding which feature goes in which package is a really hard decision to make. I love, if you could sit down with a usage chart to see which customers are using what features and by how much, that usually informs you pretty clearly as to which features you would call an MVP, right? Everybody uses this feature, it better go into my good package. And then there are some companies who use this one feature and nobody else is using that feature. And we try to say, what's similar about those companies? And what's the problem they're solving? Why are they using that? And we may end up putting that in the best, or we may end up putting that in the better. In the end, if you've done a good job at placing features into packages, then you could name the packages something meaningful. So not good, better, best, but problem 1, problem 2, problem 3. And if you can structure your features and your packages that way, it makes sense to your customers. Now, let me give you one more hint, and I said this earlier, but I'll make sure I repeat it. Do this inside a market segment. If you try to do it for all of your customers, it's really, really hard. But if you say, oh, quality departments need this, and now you do good, better, best for quality departments, and then you say, oh, manufacturing departments need this, and then you do good, better, best for manufacturing. And that's much easier to do than trying to do a single good, better, best set of packages. Yeah.
In terms of what you see as a survey of SaaS models, when you were speaking about differentiators and I will, the two things that came to mind for me were either service, as a common differentiator, and also user experience. And so, in terms of what you see in the survey of SaaS models, are there hybrid that are to what extent are the most successful businesses running off of a true software as a service versus kind of a hybrid between the software itself and a dependency, or getting off the dependency on actual like customer service, and then maybe speak a little bit to user experience as well.
I'm not sure how to tie user experience in. You can ask me that question again in a second.
Or what differentiate?
Yeah.
Sorry, what? These are the two that came to mind for me. But what differentiators do you commonly see?
Yeah, so they probably came to mind for you because this is what works in your world or in your market. You have some customers who care a lot about service, some customers who care a lot about the user experience, and so that's what's top of mind for you. It turns out that it's different for every single company, every single situation. But the one thing I would recommend, and you probably can't get there overnight, but instead of charging for service, what I would do is I would create a subscription for a solution that included service. And people would much rather pay you to know their machine is going to be running, to know that they've got this result, than saying, oh, I'm going to pay you for this, and then when it breaks, I want to pay you for that. Or just like, take responsibility, right? Keep it running. Give me 99% uptime or whatever it happens to be. And one of the things when you go from, we didn't talk about this at all today. When you go from a non-subscription business to a subscription business, what you should be thinking about is how do I plus my offer? How do I plus my product? So today you sell somebody something, whatever that thing happens to be. So let's go back to Microsoft Office for just a second. In the old days, you used to buy the shrink wrap box of Microsoft Office off the shelf. And then Microsoft decided they're going to sell you a subscription. And they plus the offer. So what do you get from Microsoft now with that offer that you couldn't get when you bought the shrink wrap? Turns out you get storage capability, right? You get cloud-based storage. They're going to put files up there. You get more collaboration, sharing capability with multiple different people. So they've plussed the offer. What we want to be thinking about when we go from a single payment license to a subscription is how do we plus it? How do we make it so that it actually makes sense for people to pay us more money and they're going to get more value from our product?
Mark, I appreciate all the comments and the presentation. It's been great. We're doing a lot of work with channel. So do you have any advice for selling SaaS through channel? Softball questions here today.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good one. Thank you. So the problem with selling SaaS through a channel is you have to decide what the compensation looks like. And what really bothers me about compensation through a channel is, let's say that I gave them, I'm going to give them 10 points of margin or something like that. And if I give them that 10 points year on year on year, they get to the point where they're really happy, they're fat, dumb, and happy, and they don't need to sell anything more, and they're just making money. And I really want them to work hard year on year on year. And so there's got to be some incentive for them to say, look, I want to go sell this, I want the upside, but I don't want to give them a perpetual compensation. And so I treat channel partners exactly the way I think of a customer, because they truly are a customer. I want that channel partner to sell my product, not somebody else's product. How do I get them to sell my product? Well, they're making a which one decision, right? Am I going to choose Honeywell's or am I going to choose a competitor's product? And in the act of making that which one decision, they're looking at price, which in their world is compensation. How much money am I going to make when I sell the Honeywell product? How much money am I going to make when I sell the competitor's product? And what we want to do is make sure we create a compensation structure for them that says, I would rather I'm better off when I sell Honeywell than when I sell someone else, but not too much better off.
Thank you.
Mark, many thanks for your presentation. I have kind of like a related question to Kevin's point earlier on the change of the mindset across the organization. So I'm curious, would you recommend the same salesperson to go and make a pitch to the customer, both for the perpetual license and a different scenario for a SaaS license?
Probably yes. Assuming that we're still selling both a perpetual and a subscription version of the same product, and I'll say same as in very similar products, then I would say probably yes. And the reason is we're talking, when we go talk to a customer, we're talking about what are the problems you have, what are the results you would expect, what's the value of that. And what we should be able to do is explain to our customer what's the problem that the SaaS solution solves that the perpetual license solution doesn't solve. And if we can do that, then they're going to lean towards perpetual license. Lean towards SaaS. But the other way to think about this is when you go buy a new car, you can pay cash for a car. You can pay, take out a loan. You can take out a lease. Right? There's lots of different ways we could pay for it. So you could think of this as I'm just offering different payment structures to my clients. And it doesn't really matter which one. Now, I much prefer that they buy the subscription one for all the reasons we've talked about. And in order to make that happen, we have to be able to explain the value of the subscription.
Hey, question, Mark?
Who am I looking at? There we go.
Hey, so question on SaaS subscriptions versus and contract length. Can you comment on that and the impact that contract length will have on?
I don't want to. Okay, I'm gonna tell the truth, and people are gonna hate me in here. I don't care. Here's what I think about SaaS. I think that you should offer a monthly subscription. Now, maybe not in enterprise because the implementation fees are so ridiculously high. But here's what I think about SaaS in general. If I offer a monthly subscription to someone, it says to them, I believe in my product. You can quit tomorrow, I don't care, but you're not going to because my product's so good, it's going to give you so much value, you'll never leave me. And then once they've had a chance to try it, and they've said, I love this product, I'll offer them the annual, the 2-year, the 3-year with discounts and lock in that contract price. Absolutely, I would do that in a flash. I just like the confidence that having a monthly subscription says, look, I'm not going to lock you in. When there's a huge implementation cost up front, that just goes away. Because someone's paying for that implementation, and it's not going to be me if you're only going to pay me for 1 month. So I'm not sure that the answer is better. The question was, in case you didn't hear it, monthly recurring revenue, annual recurring revenue, ACV, what's the best metric to track? I don't think there's a single metric to track. There's a series of metrics that really matter. When it comes to am I going to look at it monthly or annually, here's how I think about it. Monthly, I'm going to watch because I can see trends quickly. I can make decisions quickly. But what I really care about over time is the annual. Right, so the annual is our trend. The annual is what we're looking for. So I'm going to watch both. It really depends upon what decisions I'm trying to get made or trying to solve. The single metric I care about a lot is, I call it the viability metric, but it is LTV over CAC. Right, so LTV is your lifetime value of a customer. Your CAC is your customer acquisition cost. One of the interesting things about subscriptions, let's go back to perpetual license for a second, right? If I sell something for $1 million, I happen to know it took a salesperson, and it cost me $20,000 in sales. Maybe I didn't have it broken out, but I kind of know that. I kind of know my margin in building that product or delivering it was 100K. So I made huge margin on this product. That was amazing, right? But now I sell a subscription product. and I get 30,000 in that first month, and that doesn't even cover my customer acquisition cost. Is that a profitable customer or not? Is that a business I want to be in or not? And to solve that one question, I love this concept called a viability metric, which is let's take our lifetime value divided by our customer acquisition cost, and if that number is really big, typically we use 3 as a cutoff point, right? If it's below 3, we don't have what we'll call product market fit yet. If it's above 3, we have product market fit. If it's above 3, we throw money at marketing and sales and say, how do we grow this? Let's go with this business. If it's below 3, we spend our time tweaking the product and the sales pitch and what are we doing so that we can get it so that we can get that number above 3. I think that's probably the single most important metric that I would track, especially for new products. Now, I'll take it a step deeper since we have time. You've heard of the concept of cohorts. So cohorts are groups of people for whatever reason, right? Groups of customers for whatever reason. So for example, you may create a cohort of customers that went to a trade show. And I want to know what's the LTV over CAC for the people who went to the trade show and ended up buying from us. And if it's really big, we say, that's a great trade show, let's go do that again. It could be we want to do a cohort of people who bought in January. Okay, great, what's LTV over CAC for people who bought in January? And now we can start making really smart marketing and sales decisions because we've got these cohorts of customers that we're watching those metrics for. Right, which cohorts do we find most profitable in that viability metric?
That's great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks.